I've pulled apart more kicked-in doors than I can count, and every time it's the same story. The lock held. The door held. That little piece of metal next to the lock is what gave out. Most folks spend $300 or $400 on a heavy deadbolt and never once look at the part that actually breaks. Here's what 40 years of locksmithing taught me. What stops a break-in isn't the lock you can see. It's a $12 part behind it the builder cheaped out on, and I'll show you how to fix it tonight. So let me show you what I mean. Go stand at your own front door and swing it open. Look at the edge of the door frame, right where the deadbolt slides in. You'll see a little metal plate sitting there, screwed into the wood. That plate is called the strike plate, and I promise you it is the softest, sorriest part of your whole entryway. On most houses I walk into, that plate is thin stamped steel, and it's held on by 2 screws about a ½ inch long. ½ inch. Go find one and hold it in your hand. It's shorter than your thumbnail is wide. Those screws don't reach anything solid. They just bite into the soft pine trim around the door, and that's the whole thing standing between your family and a guy with a boot. Now, people always want to argue with me about where break-ins actually happen. They picture a burglar in the dark, slipping a window latch with a credit card. That's the movies. The real numbers tell a whole different story. The FBI logged about 745,000 burglaries in 2024, and right around 62% of them involved forcing entry, which just means breaking glass or kicking a door. And when they force a door, it's the door you'd expect. Close to a third come straight through the front. A big chunk come through the back door, and another big share come through the sliding patio door. Stack those up, and more than half of every break-in in this country walks in through a door that somebody swore was locked. And they're not doing it at 3 in the morning either. In 2024, more burglaries happened in the daytime than after dark. Something like 207,000 in daylight against 166,000 at night. That one surprises everybody. But walk through it from the burglar's side for a second. In the daytime, you're at work, the kids are at school, the house sits empty for 8 or 9 hours, and a shoulder against a door at 2 in the afternoon barely earns a look on most streets. That's the reality of it. And it's the whole reason your door has to hold on its own. Nobody's home to hear a thing. So let's get back to that strike plate, because once you understand why it fails, you can't unsee it. When a person kicks a door, all of that force lands in one little spot, right where the deadbolt crosses into the frame. The door slab itself is usually fine. The deadbolt is usually fine. Hardened steel does exactly what it's built to do. What actually happens is the frame splits. It splits because those ½ inch screws tear straight out of the soft trim. The wood around the strike lets go. The plate peels back, and the door swings wide with the bolt still stuck out and still locked. I've stood in more living rooms than I can tell you, holding a strike plate that popped off clean. Deadbolt never even scratched. The lock did the job it was built for. Nobody ever bothered to make the wood behind it half as strong. Here's the part that still gets under my skin after all these years. This is not an accident. The builder knows better. The lock company knows better. When your house went up, somebody grabbed the cheapest builder-grade lock set off the pallet, screwed the strike on with the dinky little screws that came in the bag, and moved on to the next house before lunch. Nobody inspects a strike plate. No home inspector pulls the plate to check the screw length behind it. No buyer ever thinks to ask. So it's the perfect corner to cut. It turns the key fine, it looks finished, and the weak spot stays completely hidden right up until the night somebody decides to test it. Now picture that same shortcut on every house on your block, every house in the neighborhood, and you start to see why this keeps happening over and over. All right, enough of the bad news. Let me show you the fix because it is honestly about as simple as it gets and it's cheap. You're buying two things. The first is a reinforced strike plate. Not the flimsy stamped one that's on there now, a good thick steel one with a bigger footprint and more screw holes in it, 4, 6, sometimes more. That runs you a few dollars at any hardware store or online. The second thing is a small box of 3-inch wood screws, another couple of bucks. That is the entire shopping list, and it comes out to right around $12. The whole secret is in that 3-inch screw. You pull the old plate off, you set the reinforced one in its place, and you drive those long screws in through the trim, through the door frame, and into the 2x4 stud that's framing the wall behind your drywall. Now that plate is not hanging on soft pine anymore. It's anchored into the actual bones of your house. Those little 1/2-inch screws let go on the first good kick, every time. Sink 3-inch screws into the stud instead, and the frame just soaks the hit and holds. Same door, same lock, same 20 minutes with a drill. The only thing that changed is how deep those screws reach, and that one change is what keeps the frame from splitting when it counts. One tip while you're doing it. Back the screws in slow or run a small pilot hole first so you don't split the frame yourself putting them in. And if the reinforced plate sits a hair proud and the door won't close clean, you take a chisel and shave out a little more wood behind it. You never grind the plate to make it fit, and I'll come back to why in a minute. While you've got the drill out and warmed up, do the deadbolt strike and the latch strike both, and then go do the hinges on the other side of the door too. Almost nobody thinks about the hinges, but a door hung on 1/2-inch hinge screws swings right off from the hinge side just as easy as it kicks in from the lock side. So on each hinge, back out 2 of the short screws and put a 3-inch screw in their place, long enough to reach that stud. Now both edges of your door are tied into the frame, top to bottom. Let me say a word about the deadbolt itself, because this is where I watch good people pour money down a hole. You do not need a $200 smart lock. I install those all week long, and I'll tell you the same thing I tell my own customers standing in their doorway. A smart lock bolted to a weak frame is a $200 lock guarding a $2 failure point. All that electronics does nothing the second the wood splits out around it. What actually matters is a deadbolt with a solid 1-inch throw, meaning the bolt pushes a full inch deep into the frame when you turn it, sitting inside a strike that's screwed to the stud. Get the strike and the frame right first. Then go buy whatever lock makes you happy on top of it, and your money's well spent. Do it in the other order, and all you've done is armor the one part of the door nobody was ever going to attack. If this is already saving you a repair bill and one very bad night, do me a favor and tap subscribe. I put out the stuff the security companies would rather I keep quiet. Straight from the van, no sponsor sitting there telling me what to say. All right, let me walk you through the mistakes, because these are the ones that fool people into thinking they're covered when they're wide open. The first mistake is grinding the plate. I see it constantly. A homeowner buys the good reinforced plate, it doesn't sit perfectly flush, so out comes the angle grinder and they file it down thinner and thinner until it fits pretty. Every bit of steel you grind off is strength you just threw in the trash. If it doesn't fit, you chisel out a little more wood behind it, like I said. You never, ever thin the plate. The second mistake is putting short screws in the new plate. Folks buy the thick reinforced plate and then screw it on with the same little 1/2-inch screws that fell out of the box, and now they've got a strong plate hanging on weak screws, which stops exactly nothing. Every hole in that plate gets a 3-inch screw, every one. The third mistake is doing the deadbolt strike and forgetting the latch, or the other way around. Both plates carry the load, both plates get the long screws. And the fourth mistake, the big one, the one that undoes all the rest, is stopping at the front door. Because your front door was never your only door. Remember those numbers. The back door and the patio door together are a huge slice of every break-in, and a burglar knows the back of the house is exactly where the neighbors can't see him work. So your back door gets the identical treatment. Reinforced strike, 3-inch screws, hinge screws, all of it. No shortcuts because it faces the yard. The sliding glass patio door is its own animal. You usually can't kick that one in, but you can lift it right off its track or pop it with a pry bar, and the dinky little latch it ships with is a joke. I can open most of them faster than you can with a key. So drop a solid bar or a cut length of broom handle into the bottom track so the panel can't slide, and run a screw into the top track so nobody can lift the door up and out. Costs you next to nothing, and it turns your softest door into a wall. Now let me tell you what actually runs through a burglar's head, because this is where the whole thing comes together. The guy trying to get into your house is not some criminal mastermind. He wants an empty place, he wants in fast, and he wants to be gone before a soul notices him. He is counting on that door popping on the first kick, maybe the second. So when he throws his weight into it and the thing just shudders and holds, now he's got a decision to make in about 2 seconds, standing out there in the open, exposed, making noise on somebody's porch. And nearly every time he quits and walks. He goes hunting for the easy house instead, and there is always an easy house on the street, because almost nobody ever touched their strike plate. That is the entire game right there. You don't have to turn your home into a fortress bristling with cameras. You just have to be the door that isn't worth the second kick. So there it is, the $12 upgrade, a reinforced strike plate, a box of 3-inch screws, the deadbolt strike, the latch strike, the hinges, and the back and patio doors while you've got the drill in your hand. One afternoon, one drill, and the single weakest point in your whole house is now the strongest. The average break-in runs a family somewhere around $8,000 in stolen things, and that's before you count the busted door frame and that feeling in your own home that takes a long, long time to come back. $12 against all of that is the best money you will ever put into your house, and I've been doing this 40 years, so trust me on it. Go check your screws tonight before you do anything else. And if you want to see the 3 locks I'd actually hang on a door once the frame is solid, and the 2 I wouldn't let anywhere near my own house, that one's next.